few months ago, William Schneider Jr. arrived at the CAPS Media Center with an absolute treasure trove of Ventura history. Bill's father, William Schneider Sr., was a highly respected teacher throughout Ventura. For years, his hobby was recording on camera interviews and family histories with fascinating people all over the county. Recently, his son, Bill Jr., gathered together more than 100 tapes from his father's archives, and working here at the CAPS Media Center, has painstakingly restored these treasures. Bill's new series, called My Father's Stories, explores some of the very early days of Ventura County. Most of the videos were recorded 20 to 30 years ago. The people, places, and stories Bill shares are part of Ventura's rich history. Welcome to My Father's Stories.
So Bill, what story have you got for us today?
Today we're going to see Monsignor Biedermann. Monsignor Biedermann was born in Austria at the age of 5. The whole family moved next to a Catholic school where he and his brothers attended, and Monsignor Biedermann was eventually ordained at that school. Then in 1948, the whole family moved to America. They first went to Chicago, then Wisconsin, and then they finally wound up in Los Angeles where he went to work at a Catholic church. He stayed there for about 15 years, and then around 1965, the Archdiocese in Los Angeles assigned him to a small church in Saticoy. It was called the Sacred Heart Church in Saticoy. He didn't like that old church because the church was built in 1915 actually and had a really cheesy addition built to it. And not only that, he didn't like Mexican food, which is probably the worst thing of all. He went back to Los Angeles to plead with the Archdiocese to take him back to Los Angeles, but the Archdiocese said no. And he returned back to Saticoy, and he felt like God was punishing him. So this is probably what motivated Monsignor Biedermann to start building this beautiful Sacred Heart Church they have now. And 2 years after he was assigned to the Saticoy Church in 1967, groundbreaking began on the Sacred Heart Church in Saticoy.
Your dad met him? Tell me about your dad.
Well, my father is a Presbyterian actually, and I was a Catholic, and I was an altar boy at the church. And my father was active at the church. And I don't think he knew Father Biedermann personally. I think he hunted him down, found him out, and did the story on him because it was such an interesting story.
So an altar boy.
Altar boy.
Well, let's see the Monsignor.
This is such a pleasurable moment for me to spend a little time with Monsignor Arnold that came to Saticoy in 1948.
No, I came to Los Angeles in 48.
Okay. Well, you can see who's going to dominate this conversation. Monsignor Biedermann arrived in Saticoy, and when you looked, what was your first thought when you came to town?
What a lousy place this is.
Did you feel you were sent here for punishment or something?
That's what I had a feeling.
Well, to look around at this beautiful place that you've developed, and I'm going to give you all the credit for it, it's just kind of breathtaking. For an old Saticoy boy, it's hard to realize. How did you get started? What was the first thought that you had when you did arrive here of a positive nature?
After I was appointed pastor of the newly formed Sacred Heart Parish, I drove with my sister to Saticoy. And the closer I came to Saticoy, the worse it got. I was very disappointed, very unhappy. When I saw the old church, I said to myself, oh my God, what happened to me now? I can't live here. And there was a little addition to the church, and I thought that was the rectory. So I said to myself, I can't take that. That's impossible. So I drove all the way back to Los Angeles, talked to the secretary of Cardinal McIntyre, Monsignor Hawks, and I said to him, I can't take that. He said, you took it already. I said, what does that mean? You go back there and inquire a little bit more, and you will find out. It's a beautiful place. You're not sent there for punishment, you're sent there as a reward. I said, well, if it's a reward, I better find something better. So I came back the next day, and I went to Monsignor Hurley, next door at the Assumption Church. I went to Joshua Kennedy at San Sebastian, and I talked to both of them, and they both said, this is a beautiful place. Many people wanted that, and you should be very happy to have it. The little church is just the beginning. That's where you will say Mass for a while, but you're building a new church and a new surrounding, and you should be very, very happy. I said, I don't feel like that, but I will be very happy if you say so. And so that's the way it turned out. Today, many years after, I'm very, very happy. I'm so happy that I want to leave Saticoy. I think that's the best place to be. Saticoy is God's heaven on earth. No wonder the old Indians settled at the Saticoy river, because they felt it's a beautiful place. They went to the old mission for services, but the better ones stayed here in Saticoy because it's heaven on earth. While they have snow, wind, tornadoes, floods, in other parts of the country, Saticoy is always safe. It's God's paradise. And I feel so much at home that I decided to retire here and spend the rest of my years here in Saticoy, the gateway to heaven.
Well, we're certainly glad you decided to do that. This town owes you a great debt. But I'd like to ask you about your young life as a youth. Where were you raised?
I was raised in Schruns, Austria. That's where I was born. And I stayed there for 5 years. And after 5 years, we moved to Feldkirch. Feldkirch is a very dear place to me because I went to grammar school there, to high school, to the gymnasium, which is a European type of high school. And I was ordained in Feldkirch at the Dome, which has now a bishop, and the auxiliary bishop Franciscus John was the one who ordained me in Feldkirch. So Feldkirch is my hometown, so to speak. I took once some parishioners from Saticoy, I don't know if Jack went with me, to Austria. And I showed them the dome where I was ordained. The people looked around and said, that's an old church. I said, so am I. I'm old too. We are both grew old. We are very happy to be part of this town.
Now, how did you get to United States?
I came to the United States with my whole family. My father, my stepmother, my mother died years before, so my father remarried again. My father had 18 children, 9 children for my own mother, 9 children for my stepmother, 6 girls and 3 boys. 6 are in heaven, 6 are in Europe, and 6 are here.
Pretty well divided then.
Very, very well divided, yeah.
And you started from Los Angeles then, and
Yeah, we came to Los Angeles first, but my father didn't find a job. He was a physical therapist, so he didn't find a job, so we moved to Chicago. We went by bus to Chicago, the whole family. And arriving in Chicago, the Swiss ambassador told us the best way to go to Wisconsin, that's lots of Swiss people there. You feel at home. So we drove to Monroe, Wisconsin. When we came out the bus, they thought a new sect moved in. Priest with lots of cousins and nephews. When we told the people that we were one family, they couldn't believe it. They said, well, the European, we have a great invasion in the United States with such a big family. So my father liked Monroe, Wisconsin so much that he bought a house the next day and we settled there.
Yeah.
I was there for 1 year. So my father moved to Los Angeles in January 49. He called us from Los Angeles and he said, Los Angeles is the better place, move back here. Wisconsin is too cold, too snowy. So we packed up and moved all the way back to Los Angeles. And in Los Angeles I got my first appointment in the city, and I was in the city from 48 till 66, till I came to Saticoy.
You arrived in Saticoy in
1966.
66.
The parish was founded in May 15th, 1966. That's when I was supposed to start here.
Now, you've developed this magnificent project here, but who were the Wheelhorses that helped you with this? Do you remember their names?
Well, John and Grace Thill, they were farmers in Saticoy, and they started the parish by donating the land. So the land the church is standing now was donated by John Thill.
John and Grace have their name on a lot of private institutions like this, the hospitals, and they mastered the art of giving. I've always said they
were great givers.
Great
Whenever
givers.
was a need,
Yeah.
whenever I needed money, I went to John Thill.
Yeah.
When I drove in the car and I said, oh my God, here he comes again. He needs money.
They were a great pair. Okay, John helped you, and who else?
John helped me. He donated the land.
Yes.
And then, of course, the people in Saticoy, they helped me with their money. We had fundraising events. The first one started before I came, under Joshua Kennedy and Fernando Valle, who was the assistant pastor in Santa Paula. They started the first fundraising, and there was already some money, I think $68,000. were in the kiddie when I started. So we started to raise more money, and many people helped me in doing that. They were most generous. And we had a great opening for the fundraising in Saticoy little hall.
Yes.
And the people in Saticoy, they prepared a nice buffet dinner. Cora Kroll was collecting the money. When I went down the line, she said, "Don't you eat anything?" I said, don't like this stuff. Was all Hispanic food. Was not to my liking at all. But I started to like it afterwards. I remember I went once to the Cabrillo village, and they had a big fiesta. And at the Cabrillo village, mostly Mexican people, they had lots of food. So one boy came to me, he said, "Father, don't you eat something?" I said, "I don't like this." The boy said, "I bring you something real good." So he went to his dad, and the dad offered his money to buy a whole plate for food. So the boy brought it to me. And he said, "Father, that's for you." I said, "Well, there are some hungry people in the Cabrillo village." He said, "No, we are all eating now. You got to eat." So I ate a little bit, and I gave the rest to the boy, and I said, "You give it to the hungry children." He said, "Thank you, Father. We love this food. We like it." So I got rid of that food.
Now, have you acquired a taste for Mexican cooking?
Yeah, tacos
Yeah.
and
How about the tamales?
tamales,
Enchiladas?
enchiladas.
Okay. All right. You've passed muster if you can eat that now.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. You have several buildings here on this location. Can you tell us what they all function as?
The first building is a church.
Mm-hmm.
We started that in 67, completed it in 68. I had an assistant pastor, Father Paul Dodson. So we moved in procession from the old church to the new church on August the 15th. And we took possession of the new church. It was still bare, inside and outside, was not completed, but the roof was over the building, and it was certainly 100% better than the old church, which leaked, and when they collected the money, they fell into the cracks.
Goes in the cracks. Jose Flores, I know, was very proud of this church.
Jose Flores was the chief contractor under Viola, and he told me once a story. He said, "This is my church." And Viola fought him because he put more cement into the wall than the law required. The law required only one section, and then the next section free. He said, "I put cement in all the holes."
Yeah.
That was my church, and I wanted to build it strong, and it's still standing.
Yes. He was quite proud of that. He was quite proud of that. And then you have a school here too.
Yeah, we started the school. That was a long story. I fought for the school for many years. And then I had open heart surgery in 1980. I gave up already to build a school, so I barely made it home. And the Cardinal Manning at that time, he gave me permission to build a school. I said, now they killed me almost, and now they want me to build a school. But I said to myself, well, I fought for so many years, I'm going to do it. So the school started in 1980, but they were very suspicious at downtown, at the Chancery office, for me to build a school. So they permitted only the kindergarten, the first grade. So I started with the kindergarten and first grade, and every year I added 1 grade to make sure I could manage the construction of the school. So the school was finished, and I was pastor for 2 graduations. Happy moment for me, because I love the children and I'm very happy to have a school.
That's wonderful. Now, do you teach phonics?
I told one child, when you answer, speak loud and clearly. So the boy told me, you speak like with an accent. Where did you get that from?
Now, you have another beautiful building here that our historical society graces once a year, your rec hall.
Your rec hall that was built 4 years after I opened the school in 1985. And Viola built the hall, and with a lots of pushing, finally I succeeded. When I went down for the final approval, the secretary to the Cardinal, Monsignor Hawks, said, what do you think you're building there, a palace? This looks like a palace. I won't give permission, but since you have the money, I say okay.
Yeah, that's great. And it does get used, doesn't it?
It gets used. It's used for weddings, for receptions, for gatherings of all kind of people. Father Dan O'Sullivan, my successor, he remodeled the whole hall inside, and it's now used for adult education, for senior citizen. Anything else?
Well, I know our society meets there once a year. And you're a very gracious host, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very
We are
gracious.
happy to people who come and use it.
You still have some land here, don't you?
We still have some land.
What are your dreams?
Well, I dreamed out all kind of dreams. We have some empty lots, but I don't want to have a gas station under my nose. So we leave it free for the time being. I wanted to build a cemetery, but Santa Clara Cemetery was too close to us, so I didn't get permission to use it. Father O'Sullivan, the new pastor, said, we bury you there because you lived here, you die here, we bury you here. So we'll be the cemetery then.
Yeah, I think I see Evis Vanoni out there planting hay once in a while, doesn't he?
Ives Vahoni is a good worker, and he keeps the land free from weeds,
Yes.
because the city inspects, or the state inspects all the properties around. And if there is weed, they come and complain. So he keeps the weeds
He
down.
takes very good care of it. What are your thoughts about the little white church you left?
The little white church I left was bought by someone who bought the land across the street from Wells Road. And there were 2 owners. And one of the owner bought a church, and he put it there, and it's still there. And he said, we built houses around it, and the little park is suited and blessed by a little church, the old Secretary Church. We keep it there. But in the meantime, the city put a moratorium on the whole building there, and we couldn't build anything. And so what happened was, in the meantime, the man sold his portion to another developer, and so the church goes down the drain.
Yeah. Let's go back to your youth, Monsignor. You were raised in Austria, and those were very troubled times. The Nazis took over your country. Can you tell us something about
I
that?
remember that very vividly. The Nazis moved into Austria in May of 1938.
Okay.
I was in high school at that time, And as a little boy, young and energetic, I watched them moving in. I thought it was the greatest thing which ever happened to Germany, to Austria, because they're very, very impressive. And horses, they rode in with music, fanfare. The Nazis were great in marching, and they caught the youth, especially with their performances. But I found out quickly that was the downfall of Austria. The school was closed for 3 days, thanks be to God. And the whole personnel was changed overnight. We got a new rector, a former Nazi, who was working with the Nazis for the invasion. So we was looking for a new position, and so many of contemporary Nazis. They moved into every religious house, cleaned them out, raised the Nazi flag, and we had to salute with the Nazi greeting Heil Hitler. We had some of the old professors who refused to do that. They were removed immediately. I was so disgusted, so frustrated, that I went to the seminary right after the Nazi invention in 1938. And I found a heaven in Innsbruck, and I was very happy there till the Nazis occupied the buildings, and they said they'd be needed for the soldiers as a home for the wounded from the war. That was all propaganda in order to close their religious communities.
I thank you so much.
Thank you too. Thank you too.
Take care.
Mr.
Take
Schneider.
good care of yourself.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
What a pleasure it's been to visit with Father Biedermann. We thank him. The whole community thanks him.